A baby isn't born with a circadian rhythm. It has to develop one over the first, I think it's 6 to 9 months of its life. So, there's habits you can do with your baby, like not have bright LED lights in its bedroom, you have red lights, etc. You're taking it outside where you can, probably away from the direct sun, but just so the lights there sit in the shade, etc. But this chrononutrition thing really interested me. It was really good coining. And what they did was they wanted to check whether a mother's breast milk had any influence on the entrainment and development of circadian rhythms in newborns. So what they did was they took samples of breast milk that were pumped during different times of the day and night, and what they found was that breast milk pumped during the day was very high in cortisol. Okay, so makes sense. Like I said, blue light causes an increase in cortisol. It's present during the day naturally in the sun, keeps us feeling alert, keeps us awake. But when you actually look at the breast milk that was pumped after sunset, there was no cortisol whatsoever in it, and it was very high in tryptophan, which is a precursor to the onset of melatonin. But it also contained very high levels of melatonin as well within this breast milk, so both tryptophan and melatonin. So it got me thinking, it got the authors thinking as well in these studies, this study, that a lot of women now share the responsibility of night feeds with their husband. We're moving into a more equal society. So she would perhaps not sit at 2 a.m. pumping breast milk for the night feed. She would, during the day, she'd have some time, probably pump the breast milk, put it in the fridge, no labels, maybe just a date of when it was pumped. And then dad gets up in the middle of the night and gives the baby the breast milk pumped during the day. You're pumping that baby full of cortisol. No wonder they're not sleeping through the night.
Hey all, welcome back. So today's show is not sponsored by anyone. It's just a conversation with myself and Andy Mant, the co-founder and CEO of BLUblox.com. So again, this show is not sponsored. We do have affiliate links below. So if you think that you want to try any of the products I personally vetted, I'd recommend, we've talked about them on other videos, the blue light blocking glasses and the glasses that can help filter out some of the LED lights that you're constantly being exposed to, I think they can be very helpful for you. Also, the new Remedy Sleep Mask is absolutely amazing. So links are below. Full disclosure, they are affiliate links. We get a very small commission from you clicking through those. So I would appreciate that. It does help the channel. But this is not influenced by, I'm not being paid to do this interview. I just wanted you to know that I'm sharing this information because Andy really knows this stuff. He's a passionate guy, and you're gonna learn a lot more about light, mitigating light exposure, circadian biology, and all these different things that I've personally learned from Andy. So just wanted you to know that. I hope you enjoy. Show notes are below, and let's cut back to it with Andy Mant.
So Andy, thanks for coming on. And so when it comes to light, I mean, how obviously you started BLUblox, was it 2015? I couldn't find the exact history on when you got this thing going.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually only a couple of years ago. We just recently celebrated our second year anniversary at the end of August. 2017, so about the 26th of August. It was off the back of basically not being satisfied with the blue light blocking technology that was out there. So rather than do what everybody else does and jump on the China bandwagon and get things mass produced, we decided to do it in labs in Australia and work out exactly in line with the peer-reviewed studies what sort of areas of sort of frequencies of light actually affect sleep, wellness, cortisol, leptin, insulin, and then design these lenses to wear at different times of the days, different situations, and different, I guess, for different people as well, to utilize to, sort of balance their hormones, get better sleep, maybe reduce stress, anxiety, and things. So, it's gone from strength to strength. I think people have got a very big appetite for, I guess, the integrity and honesty and, I guess, data we put behind our products.
That's awesome. I remember back in 2014, the first pair of blue light blockers that I bought were really like construction protective eyewear. It was the UVEX glasses, So what I heard you say right there is you guys, and I didn't know this about your company, but the actual filters that you're using are designed to specifically mitigate certain colors of light. And I think Because I think the perception now and the awareness about the idea and the premise that light is problematic for our health, especially blue light at night, and we can talk about all the different frequencies. But I think people are just going on Amazon buying the cheapest pair they can find. But what I heard you say right there is that may not mitigate the problematic frequencies that you could be exposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you actually look at the peer-reviewed studies out there, and I can link these to you after the show, it's not a problem. You see a range specifically for after dark. So after the sun sets, you want to be blocking specific frequencies of light to actually stop or reduce cortisol, lower that down, which then allows tryptophan and serotonin to actually come and form melatonin, which puts us to sleep and is a really powerful sort of antioxidant as well, and something we really need. A lot of the cheap pairs, if you jump on Amazon and even some of the other more reputable companies out there, when you actually test their lenses through a spectrometer, not all of them even block all blue light. And what frequencies you need to block after dark are 100% of blue light. It runs from 400 to 495 nanometers. And you also need to block a huge amount of the green spectrum as well. So you need to block from 495 to 550 nanometers. So in total, you need to be blocking 400 to 550 nanometers. And a lot of people put sort of orange lenses on. These are probably at best maybe blocking 99% of blue light, 98% of blue light, up to 495 nanometers. So people are putting these on, probably getting a slightly improved sleep, but we're all about sort of, especially in your community, all about optimizing our lifestyles, and to do that you need to be wearing a lens that blocks up to 550 nanometers after dark. Even a small amount of light in that spectrum range is enough to tone down the secretion of melatonin, heighten cortisol levels, and we actually grabbed about sort of 10 to 15 pairs of random glasses from the internet and sent them to our lab in Western Australia to actually test them, and we published a few of the results on our website as well, just to say, look, if you want to buy a cheap pair, then this is what you're gonna find, and here's all the academic literature that shows what ranges of light you need to block. This is the data for our glasses as well. That's probably talking more about the after sunset eyewear, but during the day, what a lot of people have a misconception of is that you need to block blue light during the day, which is not true in any aspect. You need to filter blue. So the issue you've got during the day is blue light is great for increasing cortisol a little bit, making you feel alert, making you feel awake, something we need because we are active during the day and we need to be alert and awake during the day. But what you find is with a lot of the eyewear out there where people are putting out glasses to reduce blue light, they're focusing on a very small segment of the blue spectrum, so specifically between 400 to 420 nanometers. Okay, so that's the lower end of the blue spectrum. Now, blue, as we mentioned earlier, runs from 400 to 495 nanometers, and when you look at LED lights, so the lights that are found in your office lighting, your house lighting, maybe in your digital devices, that have a backlit screen like a laptop or PC monitor or your smartphone, all emit light across the entire blue spectrum, but with spikes between 440 and 480 nanometers. And it's this light that spikes so highly during the day that actually causes a lot of cell damage in the eye. So you'll get like symptoms if you're not wearing blue light glasses, such as digital eye strain, which will be like dry eyes, watery eyes, maybe a bit of a tension, headache. Over time can lead to macular degeneration. But when you look at LED lights, there's hardly any of the blue in the 400 to 420 nanometer range, yet people are selling these clear lens type blue light glasses that are blocking light that actually really isn't a problem in these LED devices. So again, we developed a clear lens to wear during the day called BLUlite, so BLUlite, which actually focuses on reducing down the entire spectrum of blue by about 30%. So you're keeping the blue low, you're reducing cell damage in the eye, and you're not wasting your money by buying a pair of glasses that's focusing on blue light that actually doesn't exist or does exist but in a very small quantity in LEDs. So I guess sort of just to say why blue light is bad as well during the day, it's sort of a double-edged sword. It's good in so much that it makes you feel alert and awake, but it's bad in so much that it causes some cell damage to the eyes. And that's true with the sun as well. There's a lot of blue light in the sun, but what nature does is it always puts an antidote into sort of anything that's going to cause us harm. And in the sun in particular, it's a high quantity of red light. And red is a healing, restorative form of light. It also has some invisible wavelengths in there like infrared, which is very restorative as well. So any damage caused during the day by the sun to the cells in the eye and the retina is actually offset by the restorative red in the sun. So when you look at an LED light, so again, from any of those things that I mentioned, so smartphone, office lights, etc., there's actually next to no red in there. There's definitely no invisible light, like infrared light. So we're putting a lot of damaging blue light into our skin, into our eyes during the day and during the evening, but actually not having any red light in there to restore. So, the hacks that we need to do, like I said, wear a good quality blue light blocking glasses or blue light filtering glasses, depending on your time of the day. But you also need to look at things like balancing the spectrum of light as well during the day and in the evening. So, for instance, I have red lights in my house for after dark, and I'll put something like Flux or Iris on the back of my laptop or monitor to filter down some of that blue and add some red back in. Some people put salt lamps next to their workstations as well, just to keep that sort of, you can never match the sun, but you can really mimic the sun as much as you can by getting more of the colors that are absent in LED light next to your digital devices. Now, the third lens that actually we created was called Summer Glow, and that's a yellow lens. Okay, so what we wanted to do was we saw that nobody in the industry was utilizing color therapy and blue light blocking. So there's a huge sort of rise at the moment in people with anxiety, chronic stress, depression, even in a younger age. And a lot of it's down to, maybe diet choices, maybe lack of exercise, maybe the EMFs in the environment that they're in, but also blue light plays an important part in that as well. Because as we sort of alluded to earlier, blue light increases cortisol. It's a good thing, but if cortisol, like any hormone, is elevated for a long period of time, you're going to become resistant to it. You're going to feel the negative effects of it, and that's personified in this case by stress, anxiety, depression. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a lens that sufferers of maybe anxiety, depression and stress, where clear lenses are probably not going to be enough because they're still letting a good amount of blue light through, which is great for a healthy individual, just filtering it down a bit. But someone that perhaps has those diseases is going to be more sensitive to blue light. So we wanted to reduce a higher amount of blue light, about 50% actually in the yellow Summer Glow lenses. But we also put a really interesting concept in, which is color therapy. So we looked at some of the review literature, and it showed that people that suffer those chronic illnesses actually respond well to bright sort of colors. So we didn't want it to obviously put blue into their lives because that's going to cause the stress. So we created this yellow tint Summer Glow just here. Okay, so these are like the yellow Summer Glow lenses, and when you put them on, it reduces blue down, but everything's so bright, and you look at the sky and it's yellow, and you can put them on if it's cloudy and look out the window and be like, wow, it's amazing. And there's some clinical trials out there that tested these on people with a seasonal affective disorder. So I don't know if you guys know about that in the US, but it's huge in the UK.
It's big.
Yeah, so people sort of get really down when there's no sun out, and these actually improve people's mood during the times when there wasn't like sun out, or when they were feeling really anxious and depressed. So it's blue light sort of blocking meets color therapy in that respect. So we wanted to also move away from companies saying like these are blue blockers. They're not. They're blue light filtering glasses. And people on Instagram, you go on and like, you know, these companies go after every good looking model there is, stick these glasses on them, and they start going like, I'm wearing my blue blockers after dark. And it's like, no, you're not. They're blue light reducing glasses, and they're doing nothing for you after dark. So, you know, we wanted to put the evidence out there. We wanted to put different lenses out there. We have so many people that come to us and say, you know, do you have a one-size-fits-all lens? And it's like, no, because light changes throughout the day. The needs on human physiology of light changes throughout the day. You might have a need for infrared light in the morning, so you watch the sunrise. You might need UV during the middle of the day, so you go outside and you get UV light. After dark, you need physiological darkness, so you need to remove blue and green light. So, you know, the needs change, Mike, throughout the day. So we wanted to, you know, make sure that there was an option for everyone and an option for every time of the day.
It's amazing. I mean, this content, I want to dive much deeper into all these different topics, but I think we're now hitting the awareness, Andy, where people realize that light is problematic, and like you're saying, to be more nuanced about it. And so, you know, again, 2 years ago, maybe you just had one pair of glasses, but now we know. I mean, my grandfather had macular degeneration, and gosh, he was in his 90s, but to think about living life that way would be very, very challenging. And all of us now are spending so much time on these devices, whether it's our computer screen that you and I are talking to now, but then the iPhones. I mean, it's like perpetual exposure to this. And do we have the studies actually looked at this? Because I think, you know, the onset of devices and people utilizing devices, you know, are of younger age generally and stuff like that. And we haven't been utilizing these. I mean, the iPhone came out, in 2006, 2007, right? So we haven't had that much time, 13, 14 years, but how long does it take, or how much exposure have you looked at the studies to damage the cells? Is it in the retina or the eye? And then, is there any treatment really for macular degeneration at this point? I know my grandfather got progressively worse over time, but it seems pretty scary.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's some good questions there, and you know, macular degeneration is definitely on the rise. You can see it as much as you know in your industry as well. Like the correlation and causation sort of effect is you know, not always the most sort of you know, so I guess data-driven way to you know, come to a conclusion that's correct. But you know, it is interesting when you actually look at some of the studies out there, and you know, you see, I guess, 10 years. You know, 10, 13, 14 years after the iPhone is released, you're seeing a general curve upwards of things like macular degeneration. You're seeing things like, you know, people getting chronic stress and anxiety at such a young age as well. And, you know, a lot of that, you know, I always hate to say like one thing is the cause of something. You know, I've grown up, you know, sort of starting 8 years ago following the ketogenic diet. That's where I started sort of going down rabbit holes with alternative sort of health and, you know, creative out of the box thinking when it comes to lifestyle, that there's always one or you know, there's always several causes to things. You know, things like these, you know, like stress and anxiety coming into children and you know, teenagers. Like, is that down to, you know, excessive dopamine hits from you know, the blue light from your phone? Blue light increases dopamine, which is a good thing, but when you're exposing yourself to it constantly, that's not a good thing. You know, it causes addiction and, you know, eventually social pressures, and maybe even, you know, the wrong dieting choices can lead to that sort of anxiety and depression. But when you look at sort of macular degeneration, it's a lot more difficult to measure because it takes such a long time for it to actually happen. So when your eyes are exposed to blue light, you know, the cell death, more sort of cell damage that's actually occurring in the retina actually is occurring almost instantaneously. So when you say on a computer all day, you're not, you know, blocking any blue light, you haven't got any glasses on or what have you, and you get those real sort of sore, dry, itchy eyes, that's sort of your body's reaction of inflammation being caused in the eye from the blue light specifically. And it's like anything, you know, you're not going to get diabetes from eating, you know, white rice for a week or even for a month. But if you did that chronically and had that in your diet over, you know, maybe 10 years, then you're going to develop diabetes. So we're probably at a point, Mike, where we're going to start seeing more and more data actually come out that's more quantifiable, in that blue light is really sort of you know, bombarding the eyes and causing this degradation. There are studies out there, they're quite limited at the moment, that actually point to the fact that blue light is the cause of macular degeneration. But when you actually sort of look at it from a critical perspective, and you see, I guess, the short-term studies that are showing, I guess, the damage and inflammation that's being caused in the eye by blue light, you could actually, quite accurately predict what's going to happen with that. Much like if, a doctor, you went to a doctor that understood, blood glucose and insulin levels, that, if someone ate a meal very high in a refined carbohydrate and then they tested their blood glucose and insulin levels and saw that they would skyrocketed, I guess you could accurately predict that if that habit was followed for a long period of time, that, obesity, diabetes and insulin resistance and things like that could follow. So it's probably more of a prediction at this stage, have to caveat that. But, it's definitely on the rise. The amount of people that come to us to actually get prescription blue blockers is very, very large. So we're one of the only sort of handful of companies that offer that as well. And some of the young people that are coming to us, maybe sort of in their mid to late 30s with very high scripts, is very concerning. Now, we've had a couple of cases, and we haven't seen this in the literature, so I'll caveat that, but I've had a couple of cases where people have utilized BLUblox blue light glasses with their prescription, and they've come back 2 or 3 times in the last 18 months to actually have weaker prescriptions. And I don't know whether that's, just sort of outliers and random sort of acts of, repair in their eyes, or whether it's a placebo effect for them, or whether it is actually the reduction of blue light and the hacks that they're doing to actually manage their light environment that is improving their, their prescriptions. But it's really interesting to see those things, and I'm just hoping more data comes out that actually sort of shows this in peer-reviewed studies as well, because a lot of people swear by the fact that wearing these glasses does improve or slow down, I guess, the macular degeneration in their specific N=1 cases. But a lot of these people have had extreme lifestyle overhauls as well, where they've perhaps been chronically inflamed throughout their body, but they're actually taking more strenuous approaches to dieting, to light management, to temperature management, and also being outside more in the sun and getting the restorative effects of that as well. So it's definitely an interesting one to monitor, Mike.
It absolutely is. And that's one thing that I made a big change on in my personal life, just getting outside exposure to the sun. I didn't realize really the importance of that. I mean, I've been following this blue light exposure thing since 2014. I think a couple of studies on e-readers and like Amazon Kindles and iPads came out, and I was really kind of impressed in a negative way, if you will, at how just a little 10 or 15 minutes of looking at an e-reader, and they looked at all these different ones at night, how it really suppressed melatonin. So that got me thinking, but I still wasn't making an intentional effort to get outside during the day, and I really do that a lot now. But yeah, I mean, I think this is hitting mainstream. I was at a Whole Foods a couple months ago, and there was a gentleman who didn't appear to be a health type person, but he had these blue blocker, or what appeared to be blue blocker glasses on, and kind of a skinny, wiry guy, a little bit, nerdy and stuff like that. And I said, "Oh, those are really cool glasses. Where'd you get them?" He's like, "Oh, they're gaming glasses. I'm a big time gamer." And so I realized that, wow, this is hitting all these different industries outside of health. And I think it's getting to that point where we need that critical awareness, where it's not just these isolated wacko biohacker people, talking about this, which is cool. But here's what's interesting, Andy. There was a study that came out that showed that the variability, there's a lot of like inter-individual variability on who's susceptible to melatonin suppression associated with blue light. I was looking at these studies. So it's, some people can drink 6 drinks and wake up and not have a hangover. Other people are wiped out for a week. So have you looked at that data, and do we know roughly like ethnicity, gender, any other coexisting morbidities or things like that, health conditions that may predispose people and may make them hyper responders to this light? Have you looked at some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Very briefly, we've taken a look at that, and you're correct. The same is true actually for caffeine consumption. So, caffeine is a potent adenosine receptor blocker, which in the majority of the population, if you're drinking a cup of coffee after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to have trouble falling asleep later in the evening and getting good quality sleep. And it's funny, I was speaking to a really good friend of mine in Denmark, Martin Kramer, and he's up to actually give a really important speech in Europe in a few months, all about sort of light and biohacking. And he is one of those outliers that you mentioned. He literally doesn't have to wear blue light blocking glasses after dark. He can expose himself to all sorts of sort of lux and high lumen light in the blue and green range, and actually not have any issues falling asleep. He tracks his sleep with sleep trackers, and whether he wears blue light blocking glasses or not, his sleep is absolutely on point every night. And his ethnicity and ancestral background is Northern European, so that was really interesting. That would probably coincide with a lot of the data and a lot of the thinking behind it, that latitude plays a very important part in how an individual would manage light on an n=1 level, or even on a population level. That the higher latitudes you go, the more exposure to blue light you're actually going to have. So if you look at places like even like the northern parts of Alaska, and maybe the northern parts of Scandinavia in Europe, where some days you'll get 21 hours of sunlight. If you've got sort of an ancestral background of maybe living in those types of regions where you've grown up, and your ancestral genealogical line has grown up basically exposing themselves in some seasons to almost 24 hours a day of light. They've evolved and thrived, and those populations are still in existence today. So they've adapted, to be able to handle the blue light better. And when you look at the opsins in the eye and in the skin, people that are more are better at handling the blue light, you can actually see some polymorphisms in those opsins. The more you move towards the equator, when you're sitting at sort of maybe those mid-latitude areas where it's a good sort of 10 hours of darkness and a good sort of 14 hours of sunlight, those people are probably going to be more at risk of exposing themselves to more blue light, which is going to impact their sleep and health. So very interesting you'd raise that, and it's something we've started to look at in a little bit more detail. We've actually seen people really data driven people that have come to us and said, well, actually in our instance and in given our background, it's actually fine for us to be exposed to this type of light.
And are those people generally of Northern European descent that you found? On
every occasion, and that might be, to be fair, that might be because my network and a lot of my friends are from Northern Europe, but I would say that it would probably be true in the northern parts of Canada and Alaska and places like that as well. It'd be really interesting if people are listening to this and have blue light glasses and have the ability to actually test their sleep quality through wearables and trackables, just to see what the effect is on them. So it's definitely something that's come out more, and something that I'm going to look more and more into as well, because it really does interest me that and this is where it all comes back to what annoys me in health and wellness and fitness and things like that everyone wants this one size fits all approach for everyone, and it just doesn't work. I posted something the other day, and it was on diet, and people were commenting on it and what have you, and someone came in going, I think it was about soy or something like that, and someone came in going well, what about this population living in the remote Tibetan village of such and such? They can thrive on soy. And it's well, that's good for them, but my genealogy is not Tibetan, and I would probably find that I would react quite badly to soy. So I'm not trying to in my post, I didn't want them to think I was saying, no, nobody touch soy, or no one do this, no one do that. It's well, this is the information that's working for me, based on my ancestry. But if you're a living in an East Tibetan monastery and for the last 2,000 years, your ancestors have eaten soy and thrived on it, then maybe you want to look at that as something that's good for you. I mean, probably a bad example, but I just hate this generalist approach to health and wellness, and that's why, with the business I've got, and I say this on every show I've been on, that I want people to reach out to me and describe their light environment. I want them to tell me what their light environment is. I want them to tell me if they have anxiety or depression, if they just lightly use a computer, if they work night shift and have chronic illnesses from that, or maybe they're just a 9-to-5 worker and they want to know some hacks of how to improve their light environment. And I have a team that deal with the customer service side of things. Personally, if there's a specific question about light environment, myself and my wife love to jump on and answer all of those, because it's just so specific and bespoke that, don't just jump on the website and go, right, I want one of those, and one of those. It's like, well, come and tell me, let's talk about this. Then there might be some free hacks we can tell you as well about how to improve your life from a light management perspective as well. So, we just don't want to give those sweeping statements of you need this and you don't need that, really.
That's really important. I love that you're recommending that and customizing things, and couldn't agree with you more. We live in this binary world. This is good, that's bad. This is healthy, this is unhealthy. But there's a spectrum, and there's a spectrum of health, and as we're talking about light, the spectrum of light that I think we need to really educate more people on. Let's talk about kids, Andy. A lot of people have kids, and kids are on phones, kids are on tablets, kids are on TV. We do have a pair of BLUbloxers, if you will. Now you're what we talked about earlier. Now I'm not so sure if they're really truly BLUbloxers, but anyhow, I think what's unique about the children's eye, right, is they're more uniquely susceptible to the deleterious effects of blue light. So do you have kids?
I don't, no.
Okay. But if you had a child and they were going to do their 40 minutes of TV time or 30 minutes or whatever, right, what would you want them to put on to protect or minimize their exposure to certain wavelengths of light?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a major issue now for kids. First of all, I've seen a couple of studies that have actually shown that the increased susceptibility to blue light, damage to the retina and inflammation to the eye for a child, like a developing child, so between sort of the ages of maybe 3 or 4 all the way up to, say, just before their teenage years, is actually about 90 to 95% more than us. Which is outstanding. It's astonishing to actually hear these figures, and that's all been backed up in the academic literature. The issue we've got today with kids is we didn't grow up, Mike, with smartphones. When we were in school, we would have a chalkboard or even a whiteboard as time went on. We'd have books. And I guess the only exposure to artificial light we would have would be, from the classroom fluorescent lights, which, in themselves aren't great, but, it's a small part of, I guess, the bombardment of blue light that our kids today actually are susceptible to. A lot of lessons now are taught on iPads. There's interactive screens that are emitting blue light. TVs, etc. I mean, the TVs, when we would have like a video to watch in class, would be massive big backs and probably hardly any blue light coming out of them because there was no high definition or ultra high def media back then. So yeah, it's a major issue for kids. And then what you also find in today's society is both parents actually work full time. There's not one person at home. Like my mum stayed at home and looked after us and then went to work part-time, and we could then go, sort of do things with her. She'd have the energy to take us out, do bits and pieces. But a lot of people these days are looking for convenience. So let's hand the kid an iPad to shut them up. Let's sit them in front of the TV to watch a few cartoons whilst, mum or dad prepares the dinner. So, what you want to do is you want to start them off at a young age in terms of light management. So, there's no true antidote for these digital devices. Ultimately, they wouldn't touch them, but that's not going to happen. We need to move away from the extreme biohacking of let's go and live in a log cabin in the middle of nowhere with campfire, and actually look at society and how we can change habits to, I guess, positively influence the next generation and sort of empower them to understand light and how to manage it. So wearing blue light reducing glasses for during the day when TV's on is great. For me, I always recommend for kids going up to the summer glow, because it blocks more blue light than these ones, which are fine for adults, I believe. I mean, we do them in both colors, so this would take out a lot of the damaging side of the spectrum. And what you find as well is these will probably be a similar color to the guy you saw with the gaming glasses. Make your image a lot sharper because there's a lot less blue in it, but they're also slow down any eye damage that your kids will be having. And what you'll also find is it's really interesting, and there is a couple of studies out there that show this loosely, that overexposure to kids of blue light, like chronic blue light, is actually contributing or exacerbating things like ADHD, ADD, so making them a lot more hyper. They can't calm down, which makes sense because it makes you feel alert, and if you're constantly bombarding a really sensitive eye with blue light, you're going to raise cortisol, fight or flight. They're going to be tearing around, damaging things, and we've seen that come to more prominence in the literature as well. After dark, you want your kids wearing the red lenses. The younger they are, the more difficult it's going to be, because they have to get used to it and it's not normal. You could probably say to them, make a compromise that you can play your games, you can go on your iPad, but if you do so, you've got to wear your protection. So get them wearing these sort of more red lenses. The issue you're going to have is with a kid is because they're not seeing all the different colors that they're used to, they might be a little bit sort of disorientated and be a bit like, oh, what's going on? But it's getting them used to it. Take those off before I fall asleep.
I have those right there that you just lifted up. I think an earlier model, but when I'm editing video at night or doing any computer work, I mean, these are mandatory for me. They make a big difference.
I know. And then if you, once you get used to them, you'll be able to testify to this, and you actually look under at blue light after dark. My God, it's like someone shining needles in your eye. It's absolutely horrible.
I can't believe I used to do that and I'm protected. I'm like, what was I doing? I mean, it's just crazy. So anyway, that's great. So now, do you make children's models, like smaller sizes?
Yes, we do. We have a kids section. It's actually funny you should mention that. I've got sort of one style for boy and girl at the moment, and I was actually talking to my guy in Australia about designing maybe 3 or 4 for each sex. So I'm actually going to go down and see him later on today, and actually start designing some really cool, sort of more fashionable kids ones as well, that will actually be worn in schools and after dark. I mean, if your kid's in school, I would avoid the yellow tint myself, because I think bullying might occur. I would go for more of the clear ones. There was actually another study that came up, Mike. I was actually wanting to talk to you about it on kids, and it's more on babies, and it's more on chrononutrition. So it's a little bit different to light, but it still ties into light. It's an absolutely amazing study, like first of its kind. They looked at baby circadian rhythm. So a baby isn't born with a circadian rhythm. It has to develop one over the first, I think it's 6 to 9 months of its life. So, habits you can do with your baby, like not have bright LED lights in its bedroom. You have red lights, etc. You're taking it outside where you can, probably away from the direct sun, but just so the light's there, sit in the shade, etc. But this chrononutrition thing really interested me. It was really good coining, and what they did was they wanted to check whether a mother's breast milk had any influence on the entrainment and development of circadian rhythms in newborns. So what they did was they took samples of breast milk that were pumped during different times of the day and night, and what they found was that breast milk pumped during the day was very high in cortisol. Okay, so makes sense. Like I said, blue light causes an increase in cortisol. It's present during the day, naturally in the sun, keeps us feeling alert, keeps us awake. But when you actually look at the breast milk that was pumped after sunset, there was no cortisol whatsoever in it, and it was very high in tryptophan, which is a precursor to the onset of melatonin. But it also contained very high levels of melatonin as well within this breast milk, so both tryptophan and melatonin. So it got me thinking, it got the authors thinking as well in these studies, this study, that, you know, a lot of women now share the responsibility of night feeds with their husband. We're moving into a more equal society. So she would perhaps not sit at 2 a.m. pumping breast milk for the night feed. She would, you know, during the day, she'd have some time, probably pump the breast milk, put it in the fridge, no labels, maybe just a date of when it was pumped. And then dad gets up in the middle of the night and gives the baby the breast milk pumped during the day. You're pumping that baby full of cortisol. No wonder they're not sleeping through the night. Like, you know, maybe if we looked at, it'd be really interesting to see, I guess, a study or maybe some anecdotal evidence of women that actually get up every night and breastfeed their baby directly, rather than pumped milk, or even labeling the bottles of the milk where, you know, I'm going to get up at, you know, 2 a.m, I'm going to pump a week's worth of breast milk for the baby for the night feeds, and then test it that way. It was just so interesting. It got me thinking of this chat we were going to have, because I really wanted to sort of mention that, you know, the light obviously governs what hormones are produced in the mother, which is then reflected in the milk, which is given to the baby to help entrain their circadian rhythm. So yeah, it just blew my mind.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to look that up, Andy. That is so fascinating. I mean, you know, this is another awareness that I think people are finally being exposed to, is this whole element, how, you know, light is kind of this external influence on our body's circadian rhythm, and how food is kind of like this internal rhythm and trainer. Because I love that people are compressing their feeding window, they're doing intermittent fasting and all that, but what I see here is so much variability in when people have meals. And I think it's good to keep the body guessing a little bit here and there and stuff like that, right? You don't want to be too regimented and have the same thing every single day. But, you know, we see people some days are like, well, I have breakfast. Now I'm going to skip breakfast. I'm going to have, you know, and it's all over the place. And, you know, there's a lot of this chrononutrition research coming out and so forth. So that's super fascinating. But I have never considered that in children and breast milk. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, there's like this entero breast recirculation system and microbiome, you know, prebiotics and probiotics and all that in breast milk, but that's super fascinating. So thanks for sharing that. Some other things that I've been curious about is different watches that can sense. I mean, we have all these different biometric devices, you know, that can look at sleep architecture, blood sugar, heart rate variability, etc. But we currently, to my knowledge, that's available to the consumer, I know there's some research devices out there that track how much light one gets exposed to through these different photometer watches and things like that. Is that on the horizon? Do you know anything more about that for folks?
Yeah, it's trackables and wearables are always something that 9 times out of 10 doesn't really sit right with me. I don't particularly like them, and the reason I don't like them is a lot of them give out a lot of non-native EMF. So, you know, you're attaching Bluetooth to your person, maybe Wi-Fi, and I feel that you know is a massive detriment to our health. There's studies out there that show Wi-Fi independent of food can raise insulin levels, blood glucose levels. So I would avoid them. In terms of, I guess, you know, spending your money on something that's telling you how much, you know, light you're being exposed to, specific photons, I think that for me, I think it complicates things. I think if you're under artificial light at any time during the day, that's not going to be good for your health. I think if you're outside, with context applied a lot of the time, I think you're going to be, you know, well on your way to good health. I personally wouldn't see a need for them. I don't know if you have a difference of opinion on that, Mike, at all. To be fair, I haven't really seen those devices as yet, but I think that, you know, if you're just playing sensible, look at it from an ancestral point of view. Okay, so let's look at it from, you know, our ancestors were out at the crack of dawn getting the frequencies of light to basically improve melanin production in the skin, which is an absorber of UV light later on during the day, which protects you against UV. Our ancestors wouldn't have been exposed to artificial light in any source. They most definitely wouldn't have been exposed to high amounts of blue or green light after dark, maybe reds and oranges. So I think if you just look at it simply, I think you'll be fine. I think if you start overcomplicating things, I think you can even develop sort of stress and anxiety from constantly looking at a watch and, you know, have I slept well tonight, or have I had enough light today, and this, that and the other. I think you just gotta I don't know. I just think there's a lot of stresses and worries in today's world, and light for me, keep it simple, and just do what my ancestors have done, and what's natural, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. I just think some people need tests, they need data to make some behavioral lifestyle changes. And I think, a lot of people have this perception that sunlight is just for vitamin D exposure. And so if I take my supplemental vitamin D, the thinking goes that I probably don't need as much sunlight exposure. But conversations like this, if people tune into it, will have them rethink that. But I was just thinking, well, gosh, it'd be really cool to get some sort of watch that could kind of quantify daylight exposure to give people an idea of hey, I haven't hit, because there's steps, trackables and wearables for how many steps you get. Well, what if I get my, whatever it is, I'm just sort of 10,000 lumens, or would it be lux? I don't know all the but yeah, so if you could somehow quantify that, I think it would be kind of interesting. But yeah, Abbott or some biotech company does make one for some research purposes, but I tried to buy it. It was like $2,500, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. But I was just kind of curious to see and maybe reverse engineer and come up with something. But anyway, super fascinating. So Andy, I don't know how it is out in Australia, but here in our streetlights are being converted to, they used to be these older amber, it's like an orange light. Now it's a super bright blue green light. And my family, we encourage people to walk anytime I, do a podcast like this, walk after meals. It's very healthy. And there's all this blue light, man. So it's like, now I got to bring my glasses with me. And it's like a catch-22 because it's dark out, right? But then you want to mitigate that. So what have you looked into in terms of the exposure? Because it's above your head, right? It's not like a computer screen. Is that a realistic concern? What are your thoughts there?
Oh, it's a huge concern, yeah. So I always am a firm believer that you should sort your light environment out first. So in your home, for instance, you need to sort your light environment out. Don't have any down lights that are emitting blue or green light, because light actually from above is the worst for you. It seems to get into the eye a lot easier, cause the most damage. We actually have full wraparound BLUblox glasses in each colour that stop any light coming in from the top if you can't change any of your lights out above your head, for instance. But that doesn't help matter. Well, that will help matters when you're out walking if you have wraparounds. Whereas if you're just using lamps in your home, then you're going to be fine. Okay, so that's not too much of an issue. The major issue for me when you're out walking, Mike, is Melanopsin is actually the blue light receptor that is about sort of 15 years ago was located in the eye. So you've got rhodopsin, melanopsin, there's a few other opsins, and they all sense different types of light. Melanopsin is the blue light sensor, okay? So a lot of it is highly concentrated in the retina. Wearing your BLUblox when you're going walking, perfect, because you're not going to allow a lot of the blue light to get into the eye and tell your master clock in the suprachiasmatic nucleus that it's the daytime and keep cortisol levels high. Wraparounds might be better if there's a lot of light from above. But what happened about 18 months ago, a study came out, and actually about 3 weeks ago, a further study came out that showed that melanopsin is actually present in your skin as well. So what that means is that your skin can actually sense blue light. It can sense whether that's be from the sun during the day telling us that it's the daytime, or it can be from blue light at night. So when you're out walking, if you're not covering up your skin, you're still going to have a circadian message sent via the skin to maybe peripheral oscillators, maybe to the master clock that's actually going to tell your body, well, actually it is still daytime. And there was a really interesting study, again, the 3 week ago study I was referring to, that looked at the skin and actually looked that the skin has its own circadian rhythm. And by that, what that means was, independent of what message was being sent to the brain through the eyes about what time of day it was, the skin would still function its own circadian rhythm and being trained independently of the master clock. So when they shone blue light on these skin, what they found was that it went into sort of its day mode. So it would, I guess, do what it's meant to do. It would be active basically. All the cells would be active. They'd be doing, keeping the waterproof, fighting off sort of like inflammation, bits and pieces like that, and running on this circadian rhythm. Now, when they took the light away from the skin, the actual function of the skin changed, and it went into this sort of like repair mode almost. So like, you know, apoptosis increased and autophagy increased in the skin cells. It was really interesting. But what they found was when they then shone artificial light onto the skin, that rhythm stopped and went back to what it was during the day. So what they saw was an increase in inflammation, a decrease in cell repair and clearance. They saw accelerated aging in the skin cells that they were testing. So what we're doing is, by chronically exposing our skin to artificial light, not just our eyes, we're actually accelerating aging. We're not allowing our skin to run in its correct rhythm and actually repair itself. And, you know, we're seeing things like, and again, I'm caveating this to the, just grab some water a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm caveating this in so much that, you know, this is just my opinion on things, but, you know, we're seeing a very high increase in skin cancer rates around the world. We're seeing an increased use in sunscreen. Maybe that's correlation, causation, but we're not looking at what artificial light and chronic exposure of artificial light is doing to our skin. And if we can't put our skin into repair mode, which has been shown now in a study, we're not doing it because we're exposing ourselves to this artificial light, it's not going to be able to repair and clear out any of these damaged or dying cells, which is leaving us probably more susceptible to mutation in the cells in the skin, maybe an increase in skin cancer. I don't know. This is just, again, my opinion on sort of looking at the data. So, you know, for me, you've got to just ensure that you're covering your skin up as well. You know, it's easier said than done in a hot summer's day, but, you know, in the middle of the winter, like, you know, if you've got lights on or if you're going out for a walk, cover that skin up, because blocking blue light and green light entering your eye after dark is probably 70% of the problem fixed. But, you know, if your skin is exposed, then, you know, that's going to, you know, send messages to the body that it's daytime and, you know, keep inflammation levels high.
Oh my gosh, this is super fascinating. You know, I've been trying to figure out to find, you know, I've been using the wrong search terms in the medical literature, PubMed and Google Scholar, and photoreceptors and different things. So I haven't been able to actually verify that there are photoreceptors in the skin. So thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna have to share those studies, and that's super fascinating. And it's scary at the same time. I mean, you know, I try to control our environment and recommend clients do that at home: lava lamps, salt lamps, etc. Some of the old Edison bulbs that we use and things like that in our home. But when you travel or go to a hotel or an Airbnb, that's when I'm really in awe and in shock at how the lack of appreciation people have for light, and the lack of what they're doing to mitigate that. So I think, like, you know, you get on an airplane at 8, 10 o'clock at night when you land or something like that. I mean, there's so much blue light, and I really feel for the people that work on the airplanes, you know, the pilots and the flight attendants, things like that. But I always wear my hoodie and I put it over. I look like, if people saw me, they'd be like, this guy's kind of weird, you know, but it's like, I want to go to bed, I want to sleep well. And I know that, so I look like some total weirdo, antisocial, but it's amazing, these lights, how bright they are. And you know, I figured out a way now that if I land at say 10 or 11 p.m., I can get to bed and not, you know, it's not the best night's sleep, but it's way better than if I don't do anything, like the mitigation strategy. So Andy, super fascinating. I'm glad you shared that. For some people, it's hard to imagine that lights could influence cortisol in a very significant manner. So if we were to say give someone a cortisol stimulation test with ACTH, right, was standard medical way to drive the hypothalamic adrenal, you know, axis and so forth, like, you take me, right, or you, whatever, and you expose us to physiologic levels of blue light. How much of a cortisol release are we talking about? Have studies actually looked at that to see? I mean, is this physiologically significant, the changes in the release in these different hormones and neurotransmitters?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can link to data where they've looked at the cortisol levels and the effect on the secretion in our bodies. But they sort of look at the, diurnal change in cortisol levels from a natural perspective, and then when exposed to, the artificial side of blue light, you find that it raises a lot more than what it would in a natural sense. So during the natural sense, you get that sort of cortisol response upon wakening, which will spike very high, which is kickstarting you into gear, giving you that sort of defib into life. Then that will taper off throughout the day. And the reason that tapers off throughout the day is because the levels of blue light throughout the day actually decrease slowly until an interesting point, until the one time when you would least expect blue to be very high, which is at sunset. The highest level of blue light is actually at sunset. Okay, so just before the sun has gone down, you'll get a massive spike in blue, which actually sends a message to the brain that, right, that's the end of blue light now, and to start dropping the cortisol levels and to start the melatonin secretion. And then we're going and then putting ourselves under artificial blue light, and then you see the curve again increase up, that your body, I guess what I'm trying to say is your body has this natural curve of cortisol. Okay, so it spikes up in the morning, then it will drop down, then it will slowly increase again until it peaks around sunrise in the morning. But when we have that big spike in blue at sunset, the body is then expecting a massive drop in blue to nothing, and then the reds and oranges to come out, and that's when it knows that it's nighttime. Okay, but what we're doing is we're getting that big spike. It's going back down to sort of basal levels, and then we're switching on blue light, and it's going, it's morning again, bang, the cortisol levels go up. So it's more a case of it's not sort of it'd be easier if it was just this one sort of linear blue light is raising cortisol by this much and it's staying this high all during the day. But what you find is it actually sort of is up and down like this in the graphs that I've seen. And the biggest effect is actually after dark, where the body is expecting the cortisol levels to drop. We're switching on blue light and you see it peak back up almost as high as it does in the natural, I guess, awakening response of cortisol. So it's a pretty big deal, and it has been shown in studies. Again, I'll dig them out and send them over. I think I've got about 10 to send you so far. So I'll
sorry for all the homework. Yeah. No, I mean we'll make it work. But I mean, it's really important, I think, for people to know that there actually is data, linking this and so forth, which I think is super fascinating. Andy, one of the things that I like to do first thing in the morning is just get outside and get exposed to natural light. And if anyone needs some motivation to do that, just get backyard chickens. It's amazing because they force you to get out and open up the coop and all that. How much time would, in an ideal world, people have kids and jobs and they have commutes, to really kind of kickstart this whole circadian biological system? In your estimation, 20 minutes, 10 minutes? I mean, what's the ideal range first thing in the morning?
Yep, a few seconds, Mike. It's all you need. So that is it. So look, I mean, it depends why you're going outside. It's the same as anything you do in health and wellness, is why are you doing it? If you're doing it to entrain your circadian rhythm, get yourself out there for a few seconds, a couple of minutes, let's say. Don't look directly at the sun. Doesn't matter if it's cloudy. Just be out there. I normally bring I drink Swiss water extracted decaf coffee. I don't touch caffeine because it makes me very anxious. So I get one of those. I go and sit outside maybe about 5-10 minutes before the sun rises. You can start to see the changes in the light, and then I start watching that sunrise. Beats any caffeine hit, I tell you. Once you get used to it, it's absolutely beautiful being out there. But if you're out there to build melanin, you're going to need a lot longer. So I did touch on it a little bit earlier. It's a little bit, it's light related, but probably not so much on the circadian side. In the mornings with sunrise, there's almost no UV or damaging UV present. There's a lot of infrared light, a lot of red light, and some blue. And what that's doing is that's basically increasing melanin production in the skin, which is a natural sunscreen and UV absorber for later on during the day. And this is, one of the reasons why I go out is because I want to be outside for an hour building as much melanin as I can, so I don't burn later on in the day if I'm out in UV light, and I want to protect my skin. So again, it really depends on why you want to go outside, but for a circadian entrainment perspective, a couple of minutes is totally fine. But what we've also got to understand, Mike, is that if you get up, switch on your house light, look at your phone, then go outside, you're sending even more mixed messages to your brain, because the lux intensity of the blue light from your house light and from your smartphone, for instance, is the same or very similar to midday solar noon. So if that's the first light that your body is seeing in the morning, your eyes are seeing, then it's going to tell your circadian rhythm that it's midday, and you're going to miss out on all the hormonal releases, such as the cortisol spike in that morning being optimal, the dopamine, the serotonin, the neurotransmitters that are later going to be utilized for melatonin production. So, you might get out of bed before the sunrise and not have red light. So maybe pop your Sleep Plus BLUblox on, then get outside, then take them off, and then watch the sunrise. Then you can go back into your lights with the appropriate eyewear on. But this is why I always say that you've got to sort out your internal house lighting as well. If you go out and get the sunrise and then go and bombard yourself to artificial blue light, again, it's mixed messages. So you need to make sure that you're hacking your computer, you're hacking your smartphone, you're hacking your house lights, and you're then not going to send these mixed messages to your brain, to your master clock, or even to your skin and peripheral clock. So it's very important to see that sunrise. I never used to be a morning person. Like, I used to literally lay in bed till about 10, 11 in the morning, and I was in a wretched state of health. And if anyone had ever said to me, and I think people did at the time, were like, oh, you got to get up in the morning, it's great, you get so much done, etc., I would have just laughed at them and been like, what do you want about? I can never do that. I physically cannot do that. And when I made the shift to actually get up and watch the sunrise, within about 4 or 5 days, I was just waking up in the morning about 5 or 10 minutes before the sunrise. I haven't set an alarm for 2 years. I get up literally, if they say the sunrise is at 6:30 in the morning, without a shadow of doubt, I'll be up 10 minutes before that, and I'll be so full of energy and just desperate to get outside and see that sunrise and get that dopamine hit, get that good cortisol spike. And that all for me comes down to really good light hygiene management, because I've been on a very healthy sort of ketogenic carnivore type well-constructed diet for the best part of 8 years, and I felt great on that, but I feel like an absolute rock star on doing that diet and actually managing my light environment as well. So it's all comes part and parcel into sort of living that, I guess, more ancestral lifestyle.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. So it only took 5 days for you to really kind of adapt. So I think a lot of people, the first thing they do in the morning, because they use their phone as their alarm clock, is they're looking at their phone and they're checking into social media sites and looking at email and all that sort of thing. So, and they wonder why they're tired and they can't sleep. And you could see it would create over time a very vicious cycle. And I'll be totally honest. I mean, I used to do that first thing in the morning. I would check sales, I would check reports, I would do all that, all my internet stats and everything. And now it's like I try to wait as long as possible to turn on my phone off airplane mode. Usually it's around 10 a.m. and I'm up at like 6, right? So how long after you do your morning routine, you get outside, you have your decaf coffee and so forth, when do you feel like it's appropriate or safe, or from a light hygiene standpoint, to start looking at devices?
Yeah, look, I think that if you've got the appropriate protection on your eyes, or you are running night shift mode 24/7 on your phone in the mornings, I think you're fine to be outside watching that sunrise and then even have your phone or laptop outside. The good thing is about the sun is that if you're outside utilizing a digital device, you're going to mitigate a lot of the effects. So if you can work outside, then brilliant. You don't need anything on your screens. You don't need any eyewear. It's absolutely fine, because any blue that's coming out of that screen is mitigated by the full spectrum frequencies and invisible light from the sun. So you're totally fine. There's a couple of hacks for your phone. Night shift mode is one. You can actually, again, I'll link this to you guys. There's actually a hack to turn your phone red and completely eliminate blue, which you can utilize after dark. Can get a little bit annoying because you can't see notifications and things. If that's if you like seeing notifications, I have them personally switched off on my phone because it's just little hits of dopamine throughout the day, which I don't need to get that chronically high. So yeah, I keep that turned off and have the time. But my routine is a little bit different in the morning, because I believe that the master clock which is governed by light, is almost like the conductor conducting the symphony of biological rhythms throughout every cell in your body. Because there's peripheral clocks in every cell of your body, and not all of them are entrained by light. For instance, the liver clock is entrained by meal timing. And you find that the skeletal muscle clock, their main entrainer is actually exercise. So I like to get them all syncing in harmony. So I like to exercise in the morning. I saw you post a study actually recently that showed that, you actually get better weight loss results in the morning, which is totally true. Studies have shown this. It's not even up for debate. Insulin levels are a lot lower. You're more insulin sensitive in the morning. And you can actually get a double dose of fat loss if you exercise outside in the morning as well, because melanopsin that we spoke about earlier is actually present in the fat cells as well. I'll send you the study. And when you actually are exposed to morning sunlight, this study showed that lipid particle sizes decreased, leptin levels increased, and it was just creating this environment for really rapid fat loss. And they showed that this is very very prominent in the community. And Bill Lagakos, who I'm sure actually wrote a blog on Patreon about it, and I read it and I was like, mate, it makes so much sense. So I want to entrain my clock through the sunrise, my master clock. I want to entrain my liver clock by having my biggest meal in the morning. I want to do my exercise in the morning, typically outside. I may go to the gym later on in the day to resistance train, because I guess it's more of a time thing for me. It's not later on in the day where I'm inside exposed to all this naughty artificial blue light. It's normally around about sort of 11 to about 1 p.m. And that will coincide, and the more astute listeners out there will realize why I do that at that time of the day and not any later, is because artificial light mimics the sun lux at that time of the day, solar noon, so that if I need to go to a gym, I'll be in the gym at that time of the day, no earlier, no later. So it's all about getting that symphony just singing and all in harmony. And this is one thing that really bugs me, is the intermittent fasting community. They are doing something that is so good for their health, but they're doing it backwards. They're typically missing breakfast and then backloading meals in the late afternoon and evening time, which is actually the worst thing you can do for circadian biological health. There's an old adage actually that's out there that's eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And there's many a truth in those old sayings, and when you actually start looking into them, and that's so true. You want to pile majority of your calories in at the front end of the day when insulin sensitivity is really on point. Eat those meals outside where you can, because lipid particle size will reduce and leptin will be more favorable. And when you actually look at other hormones and peptides, during the front part of the day, things like ghrelin are a lot more optimal for digestion at that time of the day, and other digestive sort of hormones and neuropeptides are in more of abundance at the beginning point of the day. And that's not a coincidence. That's the circadian rhythm telling us that this is when we want to eat. This is when we want to be able, this is how we're going to digest the food. For me, when you actually look at eating after dark, in the presence of blue light, insulin levels increase. That's no good for eating meals after dark. But also digestion. Digestion can get in the way of a period in your day, in your 24 hours, where you need to be looking at entering a state of autophagy, apoptosis and adenosine clear out. And if you're digesting food at that time of the day, then that's going to get in the way of those processes. So your deep sleep and your REM sleep will suffer. So, the intermittent fasting community, for whatever reason they're doing it, whether it's calorie restriction or to create a reduced inflammatory environment and autophagy, just shift it, just do it backwards and you'll get used to it. I don't eat after dark now and I feel great for it. And I think that if people tried it the other way around, they would be very surprised with how they feel and ultimately how they sleep.
Which is super important. Yeah, I mean, how you sleep affects ghrelin and leptin, like you were saying. I agree. It's funny, we share a lot of the same ideas. I've been talking about this for a long time, and it's irritated people. They're like, wait, what are you talking about? Like everyone says skip breakfast, skip lunch, eat a big dinner. And I'm like, well, but those people who are talking about that usually don't understand where circadian biology is not something that they really talk a lot about. And so it's very clear in both animal studies and human studies and so forth, even epidemiological studies that look at breakfast eaters compared to breakfast skippers, there's better blood sugar regulation, like you said, insulin control, body composition, and all that. So now that being said, I do understand the idea. It's easier to just not eat at all compared to sometimes just stop eating. So once people start eating breakfast, then it's like, the gates are open, right? So then it's hard to like totally have a hard stop to it. So I think if willpower is an issue for people, food addictions, food cravings, all that, and you can just go all day without eating and then have your dinner, fine, but eat early at least. Try to have it like 3 or 4 p.m., not 7 p.m., right? So yeah, we could go all day, Andy. We're having a huge rainstorm. Can you hear the background noise or no? A little. I didn't know if, as you were talking there, it's got really dark, and then we're having this crazy thunderstorm here. But yeah, one of the things we like to ask every guest on the show, and we've had close to 300 people on now, is like if you were to meet with a parliament member or some sort of politician, there's so much focus on sugar, on calories, on non-GMOs and all that. And now I think, thankfully, due to conversations like this and research that you're helping us to better understand, light and circadian biology is the forefront of people's minds more so now. What sort of, if you were in an elevator with someone that could influence policy, obviously there's many different facets to this, but how could we practically on a scalable level help people become more conscious about bad light exposure and then have more proper light hygiene? What would you share with a politician?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it all starts with our kids, and I think that it should be in the education system. I think that, kids will have lessons where they talk about outdated, nutrition, and keeping fit by playing sports or running and going to the gym and things like that. But I think there needs to be more of an approach on actually teaching science that is relevant and credible today in peer-reviewed studies. And you'll know as well as I that the kind of stuff we're talking about or have talked about for so long takes about 15 to 20 years for it to become public knowledge. I'm just starting now. It makes me laugh. I'm starting to see everyone talk about the keto diet now, like just in offices, in the streets, in elevators, and it's just like, this brand new diet. And it's like, yeah, we've been talking about this for so long, and, pioneering the way in that field. But yeah, I would want education, but I wouldn't want education from a textbook. I would want our kids to be educated by science as soon as it comes out. And that's probably easier said than done. It is difficult to collate all the, opinions that are out there and all the studies that typically, if you have a belief, there is a study to support that belief. So it could be dangerous ground on that perspective. But I think, there's plenty of evidence out there now, and it comes out daily. I have alerts on PubMed for daily studies on Melanopsin, melatonin and blue light and things like that. And, there's about 40 or 50 studies a day that are coming through that I'm wading through to read the good ones and publish in my groups and within my website. So, I think that for me, I think light is a big one. And it's one that as we become culturally more technologically advanced, I think it's going to become more and more of a problem. And I think that we need to start teaching about it now. And I don't ever want to take away technology. I'm not a biohacker that turns around and says, I want everything gone. I think there's a place for technology. I think it's amazing. And I think it's led us to be where we are today as a population. But I think that we just need to look at teaching people how to, manage that, from a light environment perspective, and not demonize it. The nutrition industry has a very sort of good way of demonizing a specific macronutrient or a specific food like sugar. But we need to apply context to these things, I think, in every given situation. And I think light is no different in that perspective. And that's why I always encourage people to, do their own research and come to their own conclusions as well. We can put material out there that people can read and studies, etc. But yeah, getting light management into the school curriculum globally for me would be the first thing that I would address with politicians.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I was a biology undergrad. I was just thinking about the education that I got on light. And I mean, I especially in college, paid pretty close attention and all that sort of stuff. Wanted to go to med school, but I remember the talk about light was very minimal. It's like, okay, here's the wavelengths and so forth. And obviously there was back then, I mean, there was no correlation between circadian rhythm and health and so forth. And I sure hope kids are getting, I'll have to ask my daughter. She's 7 years old now, but her teachers are not aware about sugar and stuff, so I don't think they're aware about light. So anyway, Andy, we could talk all day about this stuff. And you said your website, BLUblox.com, and then you also share a lot of stuff on social. If people, well, two things. I mean, if people are listening right now, where can they find you guys? And if someone is like convinced that they need to step up their game when it comes to light hygiene, which 2 or 3 products from your brand would you recommend they start with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first place is if people are interested in finding out a little bit more about light and their specific environment, is drop us an email. Just go through the website, the contact me page. I get sent the ones I need to answer each day. So I come back to you within 24 hours where I can and talk a little bit about your environment with you. So that's the first thing. I really encourage that. I love answering them and love hearing about different, situations that people have. So yeah, BLUblox.com, BLUblox.com is a good resource. Check out the blogs, because all our blogs are backed by peer review studies. So they're all sort of put in there and referenced and everything. On Facebook, we have a group that's a good sort of 5,500 people interested in light and health. And the group is literally called Light and Health. It's just a picture of someone standing watching the sunrise, so you'll see it. Come and join that, because we answer a lot of beginner questions in there as well. People can post and other people come in and answer questions for you, and it's a really safe group as well, so there's not any extreme health douchebags in there that are going to be like, wow, why are you asking this? It's very much like, yeah, let's help you out, this is what we do, and this is how long you should watch the sunrise, or this is what we do hack-wise in our office, etc., and things like that. To start off, again, I'd expect people to reach out to me where they can. If I know a lot of your community have a strong understanding anyway of this stuff, so if they don't need any advice, then during the day, if you're not suffering from anxiety or depression, then get yourself a pair of blue light computer glasses. You'll be amazed how relaxed your eyes feel at the end of the day, like working on a computer. Combine that with free software like Flux, and you're going to get more bang for your buck as well. Both work well together. If you obviously suffer from, a lot of stress, anxiety, maybe look at dropping caffeine, like I did. But also blue light can contribute to that. So, instead of the clear blue light, get a pair of Summer Glow. These are great. Make you feel really good.
I'm going to get those. I mean, with winter coming on here in North America, at least, I'm going to get a pair of those, because especially in Seattle and northern parts, I mean, people in Canada and New York, I mean, it gets pretty dark, so the Summer Glow. And you said there were some studies on anxiety using that product?
Yeah, on SAD. It's a specific tint that was used in the studies. So I'll link that as well. It's really interesting. People just had uplifted mood and just felt amazing. So yeah, in the winter I pop those on as well. Everyone needs these because our bodies, apart from some of the outliers that we spoke about in Northern Europe, susceptible to blue light and green light as well after dark. Save your money, don't go to Amazon. You're only going to get a pair of half-assed, light blocking glasses, so it's just not worth it. We've got about 20 different styles as well, so jump on the website and have a look. We also have a custom frame service, so if you see any styles you don't like, or if you've got a favorite pair of Prada or Gucci sunglasses that you don't want to use and turn into blue blockers, there's a service for that as well. You can send them to us, we turn them into BLUblox for you. We've done some really cool like Oakley wraparounds and some like Tiffany's ones for some women. And one thing as well that I highly recommend is one of these. So this is our Remedy sleep mask, and it's 100% light blocking for when we sleep. And even a small amount of light hitting your closed eyes after dark, so say from a car headlight, or your partner getting up and using the bathroom in the night, or maybe street light shining through your windows, enough to increase insulin resistance. Another study I'll send you. And this one has detachable eye cavities, so you can actually pop it on and fit it to your head to create 100% blackout. These are a definite, if there's any kind of light in your bedroom, that's going to be a major no-no for your hormones and for your sleep quality. Another study I'll send you, that 100% blackout sleep mask actually increases in studies REM sleep in adults as well. So that's REM sleep is restorative sleep, and good for memory and adenosine clear out. So those are the three things: a day pair, a night pair, and a sleep mask is where you want to be. And then also reach out to us and we'll give you some tips on what light bulbs to use for your house, where to get those. Maybe if you've got some thyroid issues, that's a big light driven problem, a lot of hypothyroidism now. We always recommend wearing a scarf around that, especially for women. It seems to be a major problem. Wear a scarf in the office, and a few other sort of free hacks that we can sort of relay back to you guys as well. And one shout out I want to give as well, Mike, is we partner with Restoring Vision, which is a not-for-profit charity, and they have a mission to get reading glasses on people that can't afford them in the developing world. So for every pair of BLUblox someone buys, we actually donate a pair of reading glasses to Restoring Vision, and then they gift them to basically people in the developing world that need them, maybe to do sewing, to earn money, to look after their kids, and just basically improve their quality of life. And you know, we have a mission of, I guess, providing the most optimal products for people that can, I guess, afford to help themselves. But we also want to give back to those that can't help themselves, and obviously help protect themselves against, you know, the dangers of light that is causing, you know, macular degeneration and, you know, issues that stop them from working and providing an income for their families.
Andy, that's so amazing. I love that you're doing that, man. And I'll just say, I mean, where are my BLUblox right here? You know, like I said, I mean, I've tried a bunch of these. We get sent pairs all the time, which is super awesome. And I think you sent these to me it was like a year and a half ago, I want to say. I've used them a lot. Compared to the other ones, that these don't fall off. They don't lose their shape on your face. And I found that to be pretty annoying. And yeah, there's other brands out there. And after you start to wear them, they get the build quality and, yeah, just my own feedback from having them for a long time. So you guys do a great job with that, because other brands sometimes, you know, the build quality is not really there. And so you don't want to spend whatever, $60, $70, $80 on a pair of glasses, and then in 3 months you can barely use them. So love what you guys are doing, and that's really cool. You're giving back to people that need it, and I really want to support you with that. So folks, really appreciate you all tuning in, and I would love to know your comments and questions. Please type them in below. Andy, I'm so glad you reached out, man. Tons of information. You're just like, you obviously have been studying this for a very long time, and it shows, which is really cool.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike, and I really appreciate you having me on your show. I've been wanting to speak more to your community for a while, and you know, we're starting to see it a little bit more as well in your community. We're seeing a few names out there that wear BLUblox now. Obviously yourself, Ken Berry wears them, Craig and Maria Emmerich wear them, Luis Villaseñor wears them, Rob Wolf wears them. So, you know, these are all people that are understanding that BLUblox is game changing, and these are all evidence-based people. So, you know, it's great to be able to speak to such an amazing community, such as yours, and you know, keto has always been dear to my heart as well, and the carnivore approach. So, you know, an area of dieting I really know a lot about, and where I started my journey. So, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed this and learned some content, please hit that like button. Definitely follow the comments below. I'm sure that there will be a lot of research articles and back and forth, and we'd love to know how blue light blocking glasses and other related glasses, you know, and really enhancing like your light hygiene, as we've been talking about, has improved your health, because I know it has with mine. So we'll be following that below. Andy, have an awesome day. Appreciate you coming on, bud.
Yeah, cheers. Take care, Mike.